So hello, everyone. I am Brianna Rossett, the Office and Events Coordinator here at the Small Business Center, I guess virtually at the Small Business Center. And today we have Theresa Gannon from Simple Desk, and she's here to help you understand a little bit about Canva and best practices and kind of make things a little bit easier for you and your business. And here's Theresa.
Hey everybody, of course, my name is Theresa and I'm the head of marketing at Simple Desk. So just a little bit of background for those of you who may not know what Simple Desk is. We are a small business support company. So essentially, if you want to be doing marketing but you just don't know how, or you don't have the time or the staff, or if you need help with bookkeeping, you basically come to us and say, hey, I need a little bit of support, and that's what we're here for. So I'm really happy and excited to talk about Canva today because this is a resource that I use a lot. What I'm going to be doing is actually a presentation through Canva, so you can kind of get a look at what that looks like. I'm going to be talking about some best practices, some tools that are really helpful when you're creating social media posts and that kind of thing. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat. Brianna's going to let me know because I'll just be reading my presentation. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I'm happy to answer anything that you may want to know. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Okay, Brandon, can you see my screen? Yep, okay.
Yes, I can. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So this is just a little bit of an outline of what it looks like when you're creating a presentation in Canva. The great thing about this is that it looks very like how you would design it. So this is just the outline. But when you're going to start presenting, there's actually a little button that you can just do right in the Canva, like the app, and just present it. So I'll show you, and then it makes it full screen. So you'll be able to see everything that I'm talking about. I will be reading off the slides, but then I want to do a little bit of a tutorial. So I'll show you kind of the basis for how I go about creating posts, and then just kind of using the tool so you can get a better idea. Because I think some people will learn better that way. So this is how to use Canva for business. So today we'll be covering an overview of what Canva offers. So from social media to brochures, Canva may seem tiny, but it is mighty. So we'll talk about what you can create using this tool. I will briefly touch on the free version versus the pro account and what I feel you should be going for in terms of what you need to use the program for. I will say before we begin and get into like kind of the more heavier stuff that I think sometimes with Canva, people get a little bit overwhelmed. So they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have any background in marketing. I don't know how to create things that look good. I don't know where to start. They're very much used to just posting pictures of products or videos of services. Just take a minute and before you get started, if you decide to sign up for a Canva account, to just kind of like breathe and relax, because it really is one of the easiest tools that I've ever come across. And this is from somebody who's got training in Photoshop and has learned all of the kind of like tips and tricks, and I'm still always learning. So this is going to be an easy resource for you. And I do think that you're going to be having a lot of fun creating posts for your social media accounts. I will be going over the Canva tools. So I'll go over the basic tools and then kind of the tips and tricks that you may not know about, but I believe are essential to kind of elevating your design to the next level. And a lot of the tips and tricks are things that I use quite often, and I'm sure that you'll probably integrate them as you're creating your own designs. Then I'm going to go very briefly over branding best practices. So what you absolutely need to be doing anytime that you're creating any graphics in Canva. And then I'm going to do a little bit of how to create social media posts. So I'm going to do the tutorial and just kind of show you those tools that I'll be talking about and how to use them. Okay, so getting started. While Canva is certainly no Photoshop, it's a great resource that works well for small business owners and entrepreneurs. So we do see a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs finding their kind of foothold in the social media world with Canva. You have access to thousands of stock photos. So if you're one of those people that use stock photos and you have a hard time finding the right one or the right fit for your business, Canva has so many free stock photos that you can choose from that you're not going to have to do any of that extra work to try to find images that fit for your business. And then you also don't have to pay. Like if you're at that point where you can't pay to have your products professionally shot, you can find some really nice stock photos and then manipulate the images to make it look like it's professionally done. There's all these kinds of great things that you can do with Canva. You also have access to stock video and music. So again, you don't have to pay for copywriting. You can use all of these things without having to worry about getting a nice little copyright message and having things get screwed up with your account. So that's also a really big bonus of Canva. A big thing to know is that you can choose from pre-formatted templates if you don't have an eye for design, or if you're just starting out and trying to kind of get your foothold with Canva. They have a slew of pre-formatted templates, so it's as simple as just picking the one that you like and then just changing it to be branded to your specific brand colors and using your fonts. So like I was saying earlier, there's social media posts. You can create brochures, so brochures for print. You can actually set up a document that when you're creating a brochure for print, so that when you're done it and you want to send it off to Willow or J&B Print, you can set up for bleeds, so it'll they can print it and everything's fine. They don't have to do any extra work on the back end. It's pretty much seamless from the time you design it to the time that you go to have it printed. Presentations like this one, you can actually create your own logo if you don't have a logo currently for your business and you're just starting out. Business cards, like welcome cards, thank you cards. The possibilities are really endless with this tool. So I'm hoping that at the end of this presentation, you're all going to be like, yep, sign me up for a free or a pro account so I can get started. So my recommendation would be pay for a pro account. It's worth it. The basic is great, but the pro account gives you access to so much more. So you do have access to stock photos with the free account, but the pro account, you basically get everything. Like you get extras for formatting your text, or extras that you can do like editing images. Like there's just so much extra, and it's really cost effective. I don't believe that the pro account is any more than $20. I was thinking it's somewhere in the 12 to 15. So it's super cost effective, and it's way cheaper than a Photoshop account. Okay, so let's talk about Canvas tools and options. So these are going to be the basic ones. So I'm just going to touch very briefly on them because they're pretty self-explanatory. But if you need me to talk a little bit more about them, feel free to just let me know in the chat. So for templates, you can choose from hundreds of pre-formatted templates created by those who design for a living. So these are people who have that eye that you might not have, and they know what works and what's going to be effective for Facebook or for Instagram. You can use the templates as is. So as you see them here on the right hand, this is a screenshot of some of the templates. You can use them as they are, or you can say, you know what, I really like the style of this, or I like this particular element, and you can copy that into a new design. It's really, the possibilities are endless. So these are just a basis for what you have to work with, and then you can change them or not use them as much as you need to. So there's a lot of dynamic options for colors and dimensions of each component. So you can change and like the fonts and the colors, you can do all that kind of great stuff. And there's tons of different options for that, which I will go over when we talk about the font option. The templates range from banners and thumbnails to Instagram posts, stories, Facebook posts, presentations, etc. So there's a lot of different options. Again, these templates are easy to use and manipulate. So honestly, don't get overwhelmed. Like I find so much when I'm walking through small businesses through Canva, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. But the big thing to remember again is just have fun with it and see if it's something that you really enjoy, or if it's something that you could outsource to somebody like a company like us, or if you want to hire somebody else on your team part-time to just kind of create some great images. So it's okay to try it and like fail or not enjoy it. It's just part of being a small business owner and figuring out where your strengths lie and whether or not this is something that you want to explore. So the basics, this is pretty self-explanatory. So you can actually upload your own content for designs into Canva. I will show you when I go to do the tutorial how you do that. It's very basic. Again, you have access to hundreds of stock photos, so you don't have to stress if you don't have any content to upload, because there's stuff right at your fingertips, and it's as easy as, say you're a flower shop and you're looking for roses, just search for roses and you're gonna get hundreds of images to choose from. There's something called Elements, which is fun graphic additions to your design. So you can see here in the bottom right, this little Canva love. I didn't create this. This is an element. So you can find cute little elements to add to your images. I find it's fun sometimes, depending on your theme. It might not work depending on what your branding is. So if you're a very professional, kind of like rigid kind of feel for branding, elements may not work for you, but there are different things that you can kind of explore as well. Just take a look and see if it fits with your brand. Text, so you can upload text. So if you've got a font for your brand that Canva doesn't have, you can actually upload your own font into Canva and then start using it. We do that for Simple Desk. Our script font isn't actually in the library, so we just upload it and we can use it no problem. There's tons of different options for text, and there's this really great thing where you can go on and it will show you like a design, so pre-formatted text design. So again, those graphic designers at Canva said, you know what, these fonts really look good with these fonts, or these colors look really good. You can just choose those and use those. So you don't even have to worry about do these fonts go together, or how do I want to lay them out, because it's already going to be done for you. You can just pop it into that image and use it as is. So again, videos, so access to a library of stock videos. You can get those with sound or without, so it's totally up to you. And then the very standard filter, adjust, crop, or flip your images. So if you're uploading something and it's too big, you can crop it, you can rotate it, you can flip it, you can adjust how bright it is or how dull it is. You can play around with the colors. So there's all these different great things that you can do. It's very much like Photoshop, but cheap and easy to understand. So this is where I get really excited about Canva. So it's tools and options that you may not know about. So again, I would take notes, but don't get too hung up if you're like, I don't know where this is in Canva, because I'm going to briefly go over it. Brianna, is there a question?
Yes, there's a question. Elizabeth asked, are these parts of the free version?
Yeah, so everything that I'm going to be talking about, it will say whether or not like it's going to be free, unless I say this is part of the paid. So again, with the stock photos, you do have access to quite a big library for the free account, but the more that, like, when you buy the pro, you get more. So like you'll see if you've got the basic and you use an image, it'll say Canva through it, it'll be watermarked. And then that means that the only way that you can use that image is if you pay, like, I think it's usually like $1 or something for that specific image, or you just pay for the pro account and then you have access to everything. Is there more questions? My little chat's going. Okay, perfect. So transparency. So this is one that people don't really know about or know how to use. So I really like using the transparency when I find an image that I think is fantastic, but maybe it's got a really bright light somewhere in it that kind of makes it hard to play around with. So you can adjust the transparency of your image, the transparency of your text, or if you're going to be putting a shape over top of your image, you can make it could be like a bold blue circle, or you could use a blue circle and adjust the transparency so it's kind of see-through and easier to work with. If you're using a lighter text, say your brand colors are white and you're using a white font and you found a great photo, but it doesn't look right with the white font, you can increase the transparency on the background image or decrease it to help the font stand out. So you're not limited to just, okay, this doesn't work. You can play around with the different elements in order to find a design that works for you. And I will show you how I do that. So for text, so instead of just like putting text on an image and just saying this is what it looks like, you can do different things. So you can add a shadow, which essentially creates a dimension where your text pops out from your image. You can lift it, which is essentially adding kind of a shadow to the background. And again, that's another way to lift the text from the image to kind of give it some division and separate it. And it kind of creates like kind of a layer. So visually, you never want things to be flat or like they look like you just kind of slap them on there. With the text effects, it really kind of just helps pop and like create some division for your image. You can do things like hollow splice, echo glitch. Those are all kinds of like different text, like it sounds kind of weird, but they're text textures. So eventually, like essentially you can make it kind of look like the text is echoey or it's glitching or it's neon. So if that fits with your brand, it's something that you might want to use. I know I personally don't use it because it doesn't fit with the Simple Desk branding. So, but it's an option out there if you want to use it. So again, I love the shadow and lift effects because they really do help like color fonts pop from an image. And then that way I don't have to like really get rid of a design that I love just because the text doesn't work with that particular image. So the photo effects is different things that you can do. So again, you can make it look kind of like washed out, or you can make it look glitchy and kind of like new age. But the most important thing for me for photo effects would be the background remover option. So I see this all the time when people are designing. So they have a logo with a white background and will pop that logo onto the image, and then it's just a picture with a big white square with the logo in it. So that from a consumer standpoint and from like a marketing standpoint, it shows that the design, the level of design is very limited. So when you use the background remover tool, essentially what happens is it removes all of the white so that your logo is freestanding by itself. You can integrate the logo into the image and it looks a lot cleaner. So I can show you guys what I mean by that in the tutorial, but never put your logo on an image and just leave a big white background, because it doesn't look good and it's not eye-catching. When you use the background remover, it makes things just look like, you'll be amazed at how much different it looks for your image and how much more effective that design will be. So there's something called the group option. So you're going to run into this problem probably if you select a pre-formatted template. Canva has essentially grouped elements, so certain pieces of text or certain images together, because that's the design that they've created. So the group option is essentially, you'll see like when you're in there with templates, as you're trying to move things around, you might want to move one line of text and it'll move the whole thing. You can ungroup from the templates, which is simple as just clicking on that group, and you'll see the option in the top right-hand corner to ungroup. So then you can then take each individual element and move them if you need. But the really helpful part about the group option is that you can select all your elements if you're designing from scratch and group them together to easily move them. So what I mean by that is if you're gonna say you're creating an image and you've got 2 lines of text and you've got them lined up just the way that you like them, then all of a sudden you're saying to yourself, you know what, I really don't like this image, or I wanna put like a colored bar behind it. And then you're trying to get that same style, but then you're gonna have to move each individual line. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna hold your shift button and click on each of the elements that you want to group together, and then it'll create like a bundle with all those elements, and you can just move them easier. You won't have to be like, I have to move 1 line, I have to move 2 lines. It just groups everything together, and it makes it really seamless if you've got that together. Because I've started it with Canva and not realized that that's an option, and then I found a design that I love, and then I just can't quite get it back. So don't be afraid to group them together. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Last but not least, the guides or rulers. That's essentially, if you've ever been in Canva, anytime that you're pulling an image or text, sometimes you'll see purple lines come up. They'll either be horizontal or vertical. Those let you know that your text or your image or whatever it is that you're playing around with are centered. And every time that you're designing something, it should ideally be centered like that. By centered, if you're going to do it text in the middle of an image, you don't want it slightly left, because people are going to see that, and if you have a good eye, you're going to be like, okay, if the text is to the left, and you may like say to yourself, like as I said that, like that's kind of like silly. Why would you worry if it's only slightly to the left? But in terms of design, having everything seamless is really important. So that's just something to keep in mind, is use those guides or rulers to make sure that everything's level and that it's centered. So I will show you the brand kit. I do want to go over that, but essentially what the brand kit is it's an option on Canva to upload or to pre-save your fonts, pre-save your colors, and then upload your logo, so that when you're actually in Canva designing, you don't have to always be like, okay, where did I upload that logo, or what exactly is my hex code or my RGB? I don't remember what that is for my colors, or I can't quite remember my font. If you save it in the brand kit, it's as simple as just going on and clicking okay, like in there, it'll show up. It'll be the first things that show up. You click it and then just use it. Another thing that I really like, I think this might be a little bit too much for some people as they're just starting out, but once you've kind of created some designs and are ready to move forward, there is an option to animate. So that you'll see sometimes posts on Facebook or Instagram that aren't videos, but they're moving pictures, or they're like fading in, fading out, or coming towards you. That's animation, and that's something that you can do quite easily on Canva. It's as simple as just selecting your entire image and saying, I want to have the pop-up effect so that it's kind of like coming at people, or I want it to fade out in like 15 seconds. It's just literally as simple as picking the animation that you like and going from there. But one thing I do like about the animation is it's not like, it doesn't leave the image it's like just as is. A lot of the times moving things like videos and that kind of stuff are what capture people's attention. So an animation to an image will most of the time make people stop and look at whatever it is that you've created. So layering might seem a little bit confusing, but it's basically the same as Photoshop, where you're able to layer your elements and move them front to back. So if you added something onto your image and then you want it to be on top of something else, say like you've added a square and then you've got a circle, but you want the circle to be over top of the square and it's not, you can move that element forward so that it's the very first layer and it will go over top of everything. And then all the other layers will be moved to the back. So it's just as simple as saying like, I want to move something back, I want to move something forward. It sounds a little bit confusing as I'm saying it, but I will just show you how to do it and you'll be like, okay, I totally get what you're saying. So don't stress if that sounded a little bit confusing. So there's also the content planner, which I don't think a lot of people know about. So say you've got a team and you're using Canva together and you're not sure what Wednesday's post is. There's actually a content calendar where you can plug in, this is what I'm doing each day, this is the theme, this is who's responsible for creating that post. And that calendar is accessible in Canva, so anybody can go on there. It could be a good reminder if you can't remember what kind of content you're going to create for that day. And it just a good way to kind of keep track of where you're going for social media. So I do recommend using that if you're just getting started out. So team sharing, this is something that I use quite frequently. When people outsource their marketing to us and they use Canva, they essentially just add me on as a user so that I have access to all their designs and then I can share my designs with them. So it's not like I have to download and then send an email. We can all work from the same Canva account and edit those pieces and work together. So if you've got a team that is into design, this is going to be a great resource because then everybody can kind of be involved in the whole process. And then last but not least, folders for easy organization. So if you're creating something for, like, say you've got two businesses, you want to put them all in the same folder, like make sure that you're doing like one for social media, one for Facebook, one for Instagram. This is for my print marketing. Just keep everything in folders, because if you're going to be constantly using it, you'll just have to continuously scroll through all of your templates and designs to find the one that you want. Put them in a folder and make sure that they're in the right folder, because it's going to make your life a lot easier to try to find those designs like later on. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this option so I can do a quick little tutorial for you. So this is what I mean by like an image and then the text doesn't work. So this is the text and I'm going to go over the effects. So up here on the top in this little white bar here, you'll see effects. Because I'm selecting this, it's going to give me a bunch of different options for text effects. So the shadow, essentially, when you select that, you'll see us create a very thin line around the words. That's a shadow. What I usually do is I kind of, for white text, I use black. You can see it's already created a dimension. That text before I added the shadow was flat, and now it's popped up. This is a busy image, and there's a reason why I chose this image, because it's going to help you understand a lot of the tools. But you can see it's already made it a lot different than it was before. So then you can play around with things like transparency, like how like in your face do you want that shadow to be, or where do you want it offsetted? Do you want it offsetted like so it's just very slightly off the text, or do you want it so that it's like that? You can play around with that, and anytime that you try something and you don't like it, you just press none and it goes back to the original design. So these are the two that I use a lot. The lift is, again, like the shadow. So as you do it, it makes it pop. It's a lot more subtle than the shadow is, and it's easy to integrate into a lot of images. So that's why I use it. I find it's really like an easy tool to use. So this is what I'm talking about, transparency. So there's no actual name for the transparency. It's just kind of you play around with it, and then one day you find it. But luckily you're here, so I'm going to tell you how to use it. So you just click on your image and you'll see up here this kind of transparency box. You'll click on that and then you can just play around with it. Like, do I want this image to be really subtle? Do I want it to be just its original state? And then you can see as you adjust the transparency, it's going to make it a lot easier if you want to use a white text to use a white text. Then you can add your effects. Like, do I want to have the shadow? Do I want to have the lift? How big do I want to do? So it's just a matter of playing around with an idea. And I'm one of those people that I'm in the design process sometimes and I spend 15 minutes on it and then I'm like, you know what, it's just not working. So I'll just scrap it. But like, it's a matter of you just getting in there and trying things out and seeing what works and what doesn't. Another thing that I want to talk very briefly about is when you see right here, when you put this text in, look how big the space is in between the two lines. So a way to tighten that up, if you're not feeling that, if you want a little bit more cohesive, is that there's this little arrow thing right here called spacing. When you adjust the line height, you can tighten it up so that it kind of like butts up together. And that's what I usually recommend. If there's too much space between the text and it's not supposed to be there, it looks just off. If you adjust the space and make it like a little bit more tighter, it looks a lot more visually appealing. And you can also adjust things like the letters. Like sometimes people will use a script font, like you'll see up here in my tutorial Word, that's our simple desk script font, and it can be very difficult to work with. That's why I don't usually recommend using script fonts unless it's super legible. But for this font, you have to play around with the spacing between the letters so that it's easier to read. So again, you just come up to the spacing and you just play with the letter. Like, I want more space between the letters, or I want them tightened up. So you just kind of have to play around with things. I'll just briefly take you through, like, this is where you upload content. This is where you access your photos on the left-hand side here. Hopefully you can see my cursor. The elements, this is what I was talking about in the first couple of slides. You can pick these cute little graphics if it fits with your brand, or you can add lines, or you can add shapes. Something that I do quite often is sometimes I find an image and I can't make it work. Like, no matter how much I try, it's not working. How do I make it work? So I'll add a square of color and this is not like, usually it'll go right to the image because you'll be actually in like a templated image, but I'll just do it like this, pop it over, use my brand colors, obviously, and then I adjust the transparency. So then I just kind of play around with it. So it's still kind of branded. It's got my brand colors, but then look how much easier it is to read the font. So like, that's something that I do. Sometimes I just do a white. If I'm feeling like changing the color, I don't want to do the brand font, I'll do a white. And then it still helps the text stand out. Like, obviously I wouldn't publish something like this. This is just for training, but you can see how it still allows you to have an image, but makes it easier to do things like text or add an additional image on. So I'm going to get rid of that. I don't want to delete the whole thing. So it's really just super simple to work with. Like, you can, like I was saying, here's the text. You can add headings, subheadings, small text. They've got font combinations that they know work together. So if this fits for your brand, then feel free to use them. You can access music, you can access videos, and then you can put things in folders. So it's very, very easy to use. I will show you the brand kit as well. So this is our brand kit. You'll see on the left-hand side here when you log into the home, we've uploaded our logo, we've got our brand color saved, and then you can see our fonts. So these are the fonts that we use. I've uploaded our script font. So anytime that I'm in there and like in Canva and actually designing, I can just select that from the top and I don't have to go hunting. So that's what's great about that. This is the content planner. So again, it's a little calendar. You can put whatever it is that you're doing that day. You can actually publish directly from Canva. Like, if you've got the Pro, link it up to your Facebook and just publish it directly from there. If you don't want to have to like download and put it on Creator Studio or Hootsuite or whatever you use, you can just link them together and do it that way. But I do recommend using this just to keep yourself on track for your marketing plan, so you don't get kind of confused or behind on what it is that you're doing. And then you can add people to your team by just adding their email. Obviously, if you've got the Pro version, you can add more. I think this one, you can only add one team member if you've got the free plan. Okay, let's go back to thing here. Business. Okay. I think that's all for that. And then one thing I did want to mention is that you can scrap a page completely with a little garbage can tool, or you can duplicate a page. If you like something and want to keep consistency, just duplicate it and it'll literally create the exact same page. So you don't have to go about recreating a whole thing. I think there's a comment. Are all fonts, pictures, and music available for free use as commercial use? Yes. So some of the music will be. It'll tell you when you're going to download it whether or not it's good to use. But all the pictures and the fonts you can use without any problems. Like you could, like they won't give you a problem. That's what you're paying for, is to have access to all the stock photos and whatever. You're not going to get hit with any copywriting or anything like that. So that's a great thing about it, because finding stock videos and finding stock photos can be really difficult, and you're very limited because they want you to pay for the plans to get access to so many stock photos a month. This is just a great and cheap way to have access to that without having to worry. Okay. Let me go back on my presentation here. Okay, so branding best practices. So this is like, these
There's
are
one more question here.
Yeah, let me know what it is.
Are these all available on the free Canva version?
Yeah, so anything that's not, I will say, isn't available on the free version. Most of the stuff I've tried it out on the free version and you have access to. Like I was saying, some of the stock photos, it'll let you know whether or not you have to, one, pay for that image. If you're like, okay, so you're on the free one, right? And you find a stock photo. If you don't have access to that stock photo, it will be watermarked. So you won't be able to use that image without the watermark unless you pay for that specific image or you upgrade to the pro. They want you to upgrade to the pro so that you have more access to the stock, to the wider array of stock photos. But like I said, it's very cost effective. So I usually say just go for it. Like if it's in your budget, go for it and do it, because you get a lot more options. A lot of the things that I'm touching on are free, like they're part of the free version. You don't have to like upgrade if you don't want to. Is there another question? Our logo is an EPS file. Can Canva convert it to compatible format? I believe so. If not, it'll let you know that you can, or that it's not going to use the logo. But I've used, I think I've even uploaded PDFs into it as like, I need to use this PDF as an image, and it's been fine. So I've never personally done EPS and uploaded it. I've always used PNG or JPEG logos, but it's like if you upload it, it'll let you know whether or not it can. I think there was another question too. Oh, it was a question about how much the pro is. I don't know offhand how much the pro is, but I think it's somewhere in the $12 to $15 range. It's not super expensive. So if you're going to be paying on monthly, it's way cheaper than it would be to buy like Photoshop, and it's going to be a big time saver because Photoshop is so hard to learn. Canva is just basically like, here's some templates, here's how you play around with some things. It's super, super simple. So in terms of branding, use your fonts. So if you're a business and you don't have fonts, then you need to really drill down on what those fonts are. I recommend using 2 and kind of sticking to those fonts at all time, because those are your brand fonts. Those are what people recognize you by. And that's how when they're scrolling through all that stuff that they're seeing every day that they're bombarded with, that's just one more thing that they're going to be like, oh, I know from Simple Desk, like I can recognize the fonts, or I can recognize the colors or the style. I like them. I want to support them. Let me see what it is that they've posted today. So doing all this stuff really makes people stop, because realistically, everybody's being bombarded at all times with messaging. Like you want to make sure that people see your messaging and are like, okay, I love this brand and I want to stop and read what it is that they have to say. Was there another question, Brianna?
Nope, just one saying the pro, she just looked it up, is $16.99, and another person just mentioned it is available for free, yes, for nonprofits.
Yes, yeah, I was going to mention that at the
center in Trinidad, yes, yeah. We totally use it.
And then I was going to say, keep text minimal for social media posts. So for anybody in the marketing world, we just know, but this is not widely known, is that images with a ton of text don't always perform well. Facebook prioritizes like friends and family content over business content. So you're already kind of dealing with those algorithms, but they do not like when your image is just slapped with copy. It's okay every now and then to do like a quote post, like an inspirational quote post. Just don't always do really heavily text dominated images, because Facebook's going to score your content really low, and it's probably not even going to put it in front of the people who already like your page. Like just follow the best practices for Facebook, and it's going to help a lot with your deliverability and making sure it gets in front of people. So colors, again, upload it in or select your colors in your brand kit and use them in unique and interesting ways. So I've had several conversations with people over the last couple of weeks who are just kind of starting out with design, and they might have some like really bright colors, like really bright yellow or really bright green. And they're like, I'm trying to design this and it's just like a big chunk of green or it's like a big chunk of yellow. I always say, think of your colors as a way to accent what it is you're trying to convey. So don't just do like a big square of green with some words on it. Like think to yourself, okay, like here's a stock photo of a spa because I run a spa. You can do like a little green bar at the bottom and kind of play around with the transparency and put your text on there. Like your colors don't always have to be so pronounced. They just kind of play up whatever it is. So if you use a circle, use a shape, change your fonts to the colors. Like your color doesn't have to be like the primary thing. It should just be kind of an accent. So that, again, that people see your content and are like, okay, I know this business because I'm identifying them by their fonts and their colors. And use your logo. It drives me absolutely nuts when I see really beautiful like posts that I know people like worked a long time on. They just don't have any like logo. There's nothing identifying them. Somebody could easily take your content if they wanted to, and there would be no kind of stamp to let them know like who created it originally. So use your logo so that people can be that aren't familiar with your brand could be like, oh, I think I saw Vivacious is here. Like just use your logo, put it on there, and then people are like, oh, Vivacious, what is that? Let me look into it. It's just kind of things like that that elevate your post to the next level because people see it and they're like, oh, I know this brand, and it looks like you just didn't throw something up there from your phone, you know? So keep it branded, use your logo. Don't be afraid to use black and white versions of your logo. So if you've got a really colorful logo, it doesn't just have to be that. Use black and white because it's easier sometimes to work with. So stock photos and videos should relate back to your brand. I always say you're a zoo, like you're a zoo owner, you're not going to use pictures of kittens. It just doesn't work. So use stock photos and videos that speak to your brand, and use those always. So like there's tons of different options with the stock photos. Like ours is very kind of like professional women in business, tons of photos that we can choose from and play around with so that you're never using the same content. Any branded images should have quite high quality images or imagery. So by default, Canva lets you upload or save your images as a PNG, which is the highest resolution image that you can use. JPEGs, they let you download as well. JPEGs are a little bit lower resolution. I always use PNGs. But if you're going to be importing photos into Canva and using them in the designs, make sure that they're high quality imagery or just don't use them at all because it's really going to affect the overall aesthetic of your social media feeds. And then consider a mix of images you create on Canva and branding. So just kind of play around with things. Like I was saying, it's not like set in stone. Like once you found something that works for you, like a design, you don't have to keep that design. Just keep using the same kind of like elements or style. You're not married to one design. You can get as creative as you want. Just keep your branding front and center as much as possible. Okay, I think there was a question, Brianna.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was asked, do you have stats on which platform is more effective, Facebook or Instagram?
Yeah, so Facebook, I'm not really, I have to say this, like full disclaimer as a marketing expert, I am not a fan of Facebook anymore because there's so many like algorithms and just stuff going on that makes it really hard for small businesses. Like I find that they're pushing small businesses and businesses in general to doing paid advertising. They want people to put money into putting ads out there, and they don't deliver content very well at all to like they won't even deliver content to people who follow you. So like if you're just starting out with design and say you've done an image with a lot of text, Facebook's probably not going to push that out to most people who follow you because that's just the way that they work. They really want people to engage with your content, and they've got like a certain set of rules. I'm not a fan of Facebook. I do it because I know that there are people who aren't on Instagram. So I'm always trying to target to those different audiences. Our target audience is kind of in a wider range of ages. So I never want to not do something, but I find in terms of deliverability and like aesthetic, I don't have any stats, but I've found from my personal experience that Instagram always does better. Like without a doubt, Instagram for me, especially with Canva, because you can use pre-formatted templates and it's a very aesthetic platform. They're looking for beautiful imagery. It's usually what works the best. So I hope that answered your question on that. So before you begin on your designs, ask yourself if you narrow down your target audience. So oftentimes small business owners will design something and they'll be like, well, I really like this, or this is something that I really like. Don't think about what you would like. I know that sounds counterproductive, but think about what your target audience would like. So if your target audience is 45-year-old women, think about what appeals to them, what kind of content appeals to them, how does that design look, so talk about who are they, what is their age, gender, location, interests. You should know things about like what's their yearly income. So like if you've got like a high-end fashion business, you're probably not going to be creating posts for somebody that's on a lower income. You're going to be targeting women that are like 45 to 65 that make so much gross income. So the messaging that you're going to be creating on Canva, there are templates available for all kinds of different demographics, but you absolutely need to know what that demographic is before you start creating. Otherwise, it's not going to be effective. No matter how nice the posts look, it has to speak to who it is that you're trying to target. So just think about what type of imagery appeals to them, what type of copy works for them, and how can you combine copy and imagery for a home run social media post. So I find sometimes when people are creating things, they just kind of try to slap it on the image. Don't be afraid to use the copy and like the image together. They're supposed to play on each other. Sometimes the image is what gets people, sometimes it's the copy what gets people. So use them as kind of like a power couple. So like play them together. Don't just put everything in your copy, or don't just put everything in your image. Play with them and kind of create a dynamic.
I have a question also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you choose the demographic target on Instagram as you do on Facebook?
If you have business, like the Instagram business, you should be able to. There are, I don't know if anybody here does paid ads. I don't know if that's in anybody's realm, but you can actually, if you're doing paid ads, you can share them to Instagram. So you can create the ad in Facebook and it gets pushed to Instagram. There's that kind of stuff. But yes, you can check the demographic and it will give you insights into your post. So you're able to go on there on a weekly basis or a daily basis and look and see who was looking at your post the most. And then maybe that's going to give you insight. Like maybe you don't know your target audience for sure. Maybe you think you know. Sometimes the results may surprise you. So I always say if you've got the business profiles, which you always should having a business, it will give you that insights, and that's really good to use. So it's as easy, I think on Instagram, there's like a section that you click where it just gives you like business insights, and it will give you a rundown of how effective your posts were, who it was that was looking at your post. I say use that to the full extent because like, again, the answer might surprise you on that. So again, unless you're your ideal target market, don't design for yourself and think outside the box. So I always say this in every one of these webinars that I do is that I find people are just like, I have a product or I have a service, and they just like buy my product. That is so disingenuous from a consumer standpoint. Like you want to portray your brand in a genuine way. So just be authentic and push your narrative. So if you own a clothing store, talk about why you got into clothing, why you got into fashion, what your purpose is for being in the Quinte area or wherever you're from. Like, what is your purpose in starting this business? Who are you hoping to help, or who are you hoping to inspire? Talk about those things. Create a design in Canva with a picture of yourself on it and give a little introduction, or shoot a video and upload it into a Canva template to make it like really branded, and talk about your process. Like these are things that you should be thinking about as you're designing, because if you don't, it's just going to fall really flat because people are going to see that, oh, this business doesn't really have my best interest at heart. They're just trying to make money. When you're just honest and open and genuine about why you got started, or you share your passion, people respond to that. And you're unknowingly, as you're pushing out images or videos, you're making those relationships with your customers, and you're constantly nurturing them by continuing to put social media content out there that speaks to your brand and that's genuine. So that's a really key important. So it's not just about like pushing your products or service. It's about creating those connections and having people respond, and having, like, I've got people all the time that will like or share or comment on a post because it's like my mom or something, you know what I mean? Or it's like somebody that we've met in the community that isn't like a customer of ours, but loves what we do and wants to support us. So they'll comment on those posts. They'll see it and like, oh, that's Simple Desk. So I'll comment and share and support them. So you're branding yourself on one hand, but you're also creating really strong customer bonds. So that's something to keep in mind too as you're creating content. Was there another question, Brianna? I thought I saw a couple pop up there.
I answered it.
Oh, you answered that? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's create a post. Brandon, do we have time to create a post really quickly together? Okay, we do. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to get out of here and I'll show you. So again, don't be overwhelmed. So when you go to the templates, you're going to see there's so many different templates to choose from. And like I said, you can literally choose these and use them as is. I would recommend, of course, using your branding wherever you can so that it's cohesive and it speaks to you and obviously your brand. So I'm going to do an Instagram post. I'll show you what my process normally is. You can create one from scratch and it'll automatically be the right dimensions. That's another big thing too. Make sure you're selecting the right template so that you know it's formatted correctly. You'll see there's a ton of really great templates. And obviously if you've got the pro version, you have a lot more templates to choose from than the basic. It's just one of those things. It's the way of business. The more you pay, the more access that you get for something. So I'm going to select this fitness one. Say I'm a fitness business. And let's say that, so you see it'll populate. So let's say that my colors are blue and white. So this is a pre-formatted template. As you can see, these things are probably, once it loads, it's very slow. You'll see everything will be grouped together usually. Oh, this one isn't. So usually that'll be grouped together. So if you move that, the whole thing will move, but these ones look to be pretty separate. So that's great. So I'm going to change to my brand colors. So all I do is click on this particular element that I want to change. Then I come in here and usually you'll have your brand colors here. So you'll be able to select, okay, this is my color. This is the color that I want to use. Or you can put in your hex code. You should know that if you've branded your business, you should have hex codes for the colors so that you can make sure that the colors are consistent, or you can just select from the color wheel. So I said that I'm a fitness, and my color is this blue. So all I do is click it, automatically changes the whole background to blue. So let's say that my colors are blue and white. So again, this isn't going to work because this is beige. So let's click on that and let's change it to white. So it's just a matter of pulling it up. Now it's white. So like that's the kind of stuff that you just have to kind of go in and like play around with, is just making sure that you're changing the colors, making sure that the colors are branded. And see, this is what I mean by accenting with your colors. This is still a pretty bright blue, and this could be hard to work with at some points, but the main focus is still the image. So if we're talking about Pilates, this is what the image that you use. So like say that I want to use one for yoga. I think this is yoga, but let's do another one. So I like this image. I'm going to use this image. All you do is click it and drag it and pop it in. So it'll automatically fit it to the dimensions. If you just click on it, it'll put it in there, but then you'll have to play around with it. So just click and drag because it'll automatically fit it to the design and you don't have to play around with it. It's a lot easier that way. Again, there's different effects that you can do. So this is the background remover that I was talking about. That comes in handy with logos. Or if you found like an image, like I was saying before, if you found an image and it's like of a rose, but you don't particularly like the background, you can eliminate the background. So it's just the roses and then just use the roses as a vector image, which is essentially a vector image is just a standalone image that like doesn't have any background. So that's another way that you can use the background remover. I wouldn't really recommend getting into that until you get a little bit more familiar with Canva, but that's always a good option to keep in mind. So I will, if it's a little bit slow right now. So you can change things like you just select each element, change the color. You can go in here and you can change the fonts. Like you'll see which fonts you've used in the past. You'll be able to pick your brand fonts right here and just pop them in. Then you'll notice like sometimes you'll have to make them smaller because different brands, different fonts have different like sizing. So a 35 in Archivo might be huge compared to a 35 in Times New Roman. You'll just kind of have to play around with it. It's just it's honestly just a matter of going in there and playing around with it. And it's not as overwhelming as I think some people kind of make it out to be in their head. It's super simple. Like you can see, it's just as easy as clicking. Just click and drag things, click and move it around. It's just, you can pop anything, like all my uploads are here. I can pop them into whatever it is that I need. I can add elements. So if I wanted to add like a yoga mat, I just search for it. And it'll give me options for different like cute little elements. So I could just pop that in here if I wanted. It's just a matter of kind of playing around with what works for you and figuring it out. So it's literally just, honestly, just a drag and drop. And if you don't like it, just delete it, it's gone. So I do recommend playing around with the templates just to get familiar with how it works. Once you're ready to like kind of dive into it, try doing an Instagram post just from scratch, like on your own, and see how it works. So again, I'm going to go to the transparency because I love the transparency. I find it really easy to like play around with. The transparency color will depend on whatever your background color is. So if it's going to be easier to work with if it's a white background because the blue shows through here on the transparency, but it's a great tool. Like if this image was going to be really bright, or if you wanted to make kind of subtle like this, it's still branded. It's still, you still know what it is, but it's not as like, it's not like as in your face. The transparency just kind of makes it a little bit more subtle. So that's also an option to consider. And then when you're downloading, you can download it as a PNG, which is what I usually recommend. If you're making a logo, per se, you can do a transparent background. So it'll look like a white background, but when you download it, there's no background. So you can use a logo wherever it is that you want to use it. And then you can compress the file, which I don't normally recommend. I just recommend right off the hop, downloading as a PNG, saving it. You can name what your post is. So go up here, yoga post. So that's going to be really good for you to keep organized and to find templates as you're kind of keep continuing to create content. So they're just all just kinds of different things that you can do. And it's honestly just a matter of going in there and just playing around with it. So like I said, I think sometimes people just kind of build it up in their mind, but it's not as complex as it may seem.
All right, you've got one more question.
Yeah.
Can you explain copy and imagery further?
Yes, yeah. So sometimes this confuses people because they think that copy is like the imagery. So basically imagery would be this. So this design that you see here, this is what I mean by imagery, and copy would be the text. So when you're making a social media post, you'll see often that there's like, say on Facebook, you'll see like a line of text, like, did you know these 10 fun facts? And then below it will be an image with 10 facts on it. So the copy is that additional like couple lines of text that you use in accordance with a post. So I always say, don't just slap the image, like the copy onto the image, play around with the two because they're kind of like mutually exclusive, like they work together. So you can say like, oh, check this out, and then do like arrow emojis, and then you've got like a great image to play it up with. So that's what I mean by copy. It's just written text.
All right, you've got a few more questions. Can you show how to post this on Instagram?
Yes, I can. I think I can anyway. So I don't know. It really depends on what specifically you use to post. So if you are, I don't believe Canva can let you post to Instagram like directly. I know it lets you do it to Facebook, but I don't think it has the option to do it to Instagram. So it's just Facebook that allows you to publish to. So you'll have to use like a secondary publishing tool, whether that be Hootsuite, whether that be downloading the image and then just posting it onto your Facebook page, or Creator Studio. So what I use all the time is Creator Studio. So I'll try to show you, this Creator Studio is free. It's part of Facebook. So you don't have to worry about any other expenses. I'm gonna go to my Simple Desk page so you can see. Sorry, everybody, I got a child at home. So I'll go to Simple Desk so you can see, and then I'll just create, like you'll have to link your posts together. So if you've got a business page on Instagram and Facebook, you link them together in Creator Studio, and then you'll just click on Instagram, and then you'll do create posts. So you'll select whether or not it's a video, if it's going on IGTV, or if it's going directly on your Instagram feed. You'll click on that, and it'll bring up like a little like a thing to populate. So you'll pick wherever it is that you're publishing on Instagram. You'll write your caption, which is your copy. So I'll just put something in there for the sake of putting something in there. You can add your location, you can add emojis, and then you just select your file. So you will have downloaded that Instagram post to your computer. You just press add content, and it will pull up all your downloads, and you select that and add it. It'll automatically be formatted the right size if you pick the Instagram template. And then it's a matter of, at the bottom here, you are able to schedule it for a later time, a later date, or you can publish it automatically through Creator Studio. So that's how I would do it. And a lot of people don't know to use Creator Studio, but it's free. It's free. It's part of Facebook. And I recommend using it because then you don't have to pay an extra like $10 or whatever it is for Hootsuite or another scheduling program. It's 100% free, and it'll just save you a little bit of cash. So I recommend just checking that out.
Also, I want to mention too, you can also download the Canva app onto your phone.
Yes.
So instead of just you can just download on your phone and then instantly upload it to Instagram.
Exactly. Yeah, that was another one. I find with the Canva on your phone, sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to play around with, but that's why I always design things on a desktop. But that is definitely an option, especially if you're creating something on the fly and you know, oh, Theresa said, make sure you're branding it and like you're adding your colors and you're using consistent fonts. You can do that on the fly on an app. So that's also definitely something to consider.
All right, and another question. Could you show how to remove the background?
Yeah, okay, so I will add, I'll try to find a photo here that works. Maybe I'll do one of my uploads because I always have like a ton of uploads. Sorry, it's running a little bit slow. Sorry about all the crying in the background. So for some images, this is gonna be easier than others. So you just simply pop that in there. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna select it and press effects and you're gonna go background remover. It's just gonna do its thing. It takes a little bit. And then for some, like I said, for some images, it just doesn't work. It's not like Photoshop where you can like get really in depth, but you'll see it'll remove the background completely. So this one's a little bit more trickier because it had that gradient gray in the back and then it had the wooden panel flooring. So this is the best sometimes it can get for some. And at that point I say, you know what, I don't really like that. So I'm gonna find something else. But it's literally as simple as just selecting the image and clicking background remover. And then if, say like right here, you can see there's like a little flap right here. You can go in and erase it. So it'll bring it up. You can just go in and erase it. Or if something got cut off by accident, you can just restore it and add it back. So if you wanted a little bit of background, it's just as simple as doing that. It's added back in. And then it'll be like its own vector graphic and then you can place it as you need. Is there any other questions? I think that was all that I had for that. I just wanted to say, like, for Canva, just get started on it. Just try it out. And if you find that it's like, it should be an enjoyable experience. It shouldn't be something like, oh God, I got to create like a Facebook post. Just have fun with it and play around with it and get people's opinions. So like if there's somebody that you know that's really honest or like has an eye for design, just ask them like, hey, I created this post. Like, can you walk me through what you think needs to be changed or what's not visually appealing? But again, make sure that person understands your target audience so that you're still creating posts that are speaking to that demographic. Is there another question?
I answered it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I will give Brina the slideshow. One thing I will say too is that Simple Desk, if you want to sign up for our newsletter, I can provide you all with a link to that. We do a lot of like tips and tricks, blogs, or pre-formatted like lead magnets, like downloadables, just to kind of help small business owners out with whatever it is that they're exploring. So if you wanted to sign up to receive that content, just I will send Brianna the link and you can sign up, or you don't have to sign up, whatever it is that you're comfortable with. But we do provide a lot of resources, and we will be doing a few more kind of like quick classes that are free, just talking about Canva and different like tips and tricks. Was there anything else, Brianna, or?
Just saying, I've been using it for the past 4 years, I think. I learned about it from another SBC event a while back. It's great for my social media, and I'm not very techie. I can tell you, Amber from Trendval, she loves Canva, and she is not a techie girl at all. And she would make them all on her phone, and she'd post them all the time.
And that's the great thing about it is it's so easy. Like it literally is a drag and drop editor. Whereas with Photoshop, you have to find the stock photos, or you have to upload it into there. You've got to figure out the sizing. You got to play around with it. Like it's so much easier than Photoshop. And this is coming from somebody who worked in the industry using Photoshop and was like, I know all the tips and tricks. And like Canva, yes, does have its like downfalls where it's not as advanced as Photoshop. But if you're just looking to create cute branded graphics that speak to your business, it does the job. Like if you're not looking to outsource as like what we do, like we market for other people, if you're not looking for like high graphics and all that kind of stuff, you don't need Photoshop. Canva will like fulfill whatever it is that you need to do. Oh, somebody asked, what's my Instagram name? Do you mean like my personal or like my business? So if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's Simple Desk One. So like the number one. I post all kind of content there. If you want to give us a follow, feel free. Every Wednesday we have something called startup segments. So small business owners and entrepreneurs actually ask us questions about running a small business that they want to know, and we kind of talk about them. So last week, I think I did one on email marketing. So if that's something that you guys want to explore, because you have nothing better to do, it's the lockdown and you're trying to figure out new ways to market your business. It's literally like a 10-minute video on our IGTV that you can watch and get some like quick tips. So feel free to follow us on there. I'm always posting tips and tricks or linking you guys to blogs that are small business owner focused. It's never going to be random stuff. It's all going to be for small business owners and entrepreneurs. So we just like to educate as much as we can, because not everybody can outsource to a business. They just can't afford it or they're not comfortable. So as much as you want to learn, that's what we're here for, is to provide you with more resources. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, that's what we're all here for. I had someone interested in Instagram workshop, so maybe we can get together later on and we can do an Instagram one later.
Yeah, I would love to. Another thing that I do want to point out is, a while back I did create, it is paid, but it's like, I think it's like, I want to say it's like super affordable. It's like not even, I don't even think $30, but I created a Pinterest or an Instagram 101 course. So for small business owners. So essentially it's like a breakdown of everything you need to know. So what to know when you're setting up your Instagram page, what to know when you're creating content, how do you schedule, like how do you do ads? I kind of divide all those steps up from like a super easy marketing standpoint, because for me, I know a lot of stuff and I feel like it's basic knowledge, but people don't know it, and that's okay. Like that's why